A sudden betrayal shakes BTS. When Suga disappears after a secret recording leaks, the group faces a truth that could destroy everything. The sound of glass shattering echoed through the quiet dorm. Who did this? Suga's voice cut through the silence. Cold, sharp, almost trembling. The phone screen on the floor still glowed faintly, its cracked surface reflecting the dim light of dawn. A blurred recording was paused mid-frame. Someone's voice whispering, someone else's secret being sold. Jungkook stood frozen near the doorway, his breath shallow. RM's hand hovered in the air, as if reaching for words that refused to come. Jimin looked from one member to another, confusion bleeding into fear. The room, usually filled with laughter and half-sung melodies, now felt suffocating. Suga exhaled slowly, knuckles white around his phone. A leaked track, a private conversation, and someone from us sent it. His tone wasn't accusatory, but it carried a weight that crushed the air between them. The night before had been chaos online. Hashtag SugaLeak had trended worldwide within minutes. An unreleased verse, raw, personal, written during one of his darker days, had surfaced on a fan forum. But the real wound wasn't the leak itself. It was that the file came from their private studio drive, accessible only to the members that RM finally spoke, calm but strained. Let's not jump to conclusions. We don't know who, don't we? Suga's interruption was soft but lethal. There were only 7 of us in that room. Jungkook's heartbeat pounded in his ears. He remembered staying late that night, mixing tracks, headphones drowning out the world. Had someone seen him? Had something been misunderstood? He wanted to speak, but guilt, though baseless, tightened his throat. Outside, the city buzzed indifferently. Seoul didn't stop for scandals, even if they tore the biggest band in the world apart. Hours later, Suga sat alone in the recording booth. The red light above the door glowed dimly. He stared at the mic, at the reflection of his own weary eyes in the glass. He remembered when music had been simple, beats, rhymes, laughter in between takes. Now, every word felt like a test of loyalty. Jean entered quietly, holding 2 cups of coffee. You haven't slept. Neither have you. Jean smiled faintly. Old habits die hard. For a moment, silence returned. Not peaceful, but heavy. Jean placed a hand on Suga's shoulder. Whatever's happening, don't face it alone. Suga looked up, and for the briefest instant, something in his eyes cracked. A mixture of gratitude and pain. Maybe I already am. Across the city, a new article hit the headlines. Anonymous source claims BTS member betrayed trust. The comments were merciless. Theories spiraled. Screenshots were faked, voices distorted. But the damage had begun. That evening, during a private rehearsal, tension snapped. V slammed his water bottle down, voice trembling. We've faced hate, pressure, burnout, but never this. Someone in this room broke our trust. Namjoon closed his eyes, whispering, if we let this destroy us, the world wins. But even his calm leadership couldn't erase the storm behind their eyes. As the days passed, rumors evolved into something darker. Photos of Suga leaving the HYB building alone surfaced online. Some said he'd been suspended. Others claimed he'd confessed. None of it was true, but the silence from the company only made things worse. Late one night, Jimin found a letter on the studio piano, Suga's handwriting, messy and rushed. It wasn't an apology, but a confession of exhaustion. Music saved me once, it read. But when it becomes the reason I'm breaking apart, maybe I need to step away before I destroy what's left. The note ended there. No signature, no explanation. Just the echo of words written by someone drowning quietly behind his own music. When morning came, Suga was gone. His room was empty except for a pair of headphones hanging neatly on the chair and a notebook filled with half-written lyrics. Outside, the first snow of the season began to fall. Soft, silent, indifferent. Inside, the remaining 6 stared at the empty chair where their brother once sat, realizing that fame had given them everything except the power to hold each other together. And somewhere, beneath the noise of fans and flashing headlines, a friendship that once felt unbreakable began to quietly fracture. Its cracks invisible, but spreading fast. As Suga disappears without a trace, BTS struggles to keep faith alive while hidden truths begin to surface. Rain poured over Seoul like 1,000 whispered apologies. Inside HYBE's practice room, the air felt colder than the storm outside. The mirrors reflected 6 weary faces, each one trying to hide the fear that had quietly settled in since Suga's disappearance. Namjoon stood near the center, motionless, his phone gripped tightly in his hand. His last message was 2 days ago, he murmured, eyes fixed on the screen. "Don't look for me." The words hung in the air like smoke. No one spoke. The silence wasn't empty. It throbbed with questions no one dared to ask. Jungkook broke first. "We can't just sit here." His voice cracked as he turned toward the others. "He's alone somewhere, hurt, angry. Whatever it is, we should be careful." Jean interrupted, tone quiet but firm. "The more we chase, the more attention it draws. You've seen the media." Indeed, the media had already turned the mystery into a frenzy. Hashtag, "Where is Suga?" was trending across the world. Some claimed he'd gone into hiding. Others whispered darker theories, that he'd been betrayed by someone close, that the leak was just the beginning, that RM ran a tired hand through his hair. HYBE wants us to focus on the schedule. They said it's damage control. He almost laughed at the absurdity of it. How do we perform like nothing's broken? Jimin sat in the corner, hoodie drawn over his head, staring at the floor. "We've been pretending for years," he whispered. The room went still. For the first time, no one disagreed. That night, Jungkook slipped out of the dorm. He couldn't bear the waiting anymore. The endless refresh of unread messages, the empty rehearsal rooms where Suga's voice once echoed. He found himself standing outside Suga's apartment, drenched in rain. The door was locked, but the building guard recognized him. "He left 3 nights ago," the old man said softly. "Took nothing but a small bag and his notebook." Inside, the apartment smelled faintly of coffee and burnt incense. Papers were scattered across the table. Lyrics, crossed-out phrases, fragments of thoughts. Silence is louder than betrayal. "I trusted the wrong mirror." Jungkook sank onto the couch, clutching one of the papers. His hands trembled. Was this how Suga had been feeling all along? Surrounded, yet alone. A faint buzz snapped him out of his thoughts. His phone lit up. An unknown number. One new message. "Stop searching. He doesn't want to be found." Jungkook's breath caught. His thumbs hovered over the keyboard. "Who is this?" he typed. No reply came. Only the rain outside answered, relentless and cold. The next morning, HYBE held a press conference. RM stood before flashing cameras, his composure flawless but his eyes hollow. "Suga is taking time to focus on his health," he announced. "We ask for your understanding." Behind the curtain, J-Hope clenched his fists. "Elf?" he muttered bitterly. "That's what they're calling it." "It's better than the truth," Namjoon replied quietly. "And what is the truth exactly?" Namjoon didn't answer, because even he didn't know anymore. Meanwhile, miles away from Seoul, Suga sat in a small studio hidden deep in Busan's outskirts. The walls were lined with old acoustic panels, the air thick with dust and salt from the nearby sea. He adjusted his beanie, pressing play on an unfinished track. His own voice filled the room, raw, trembling, too honest. "I built a kingdom on brotherhood, but no one told me kings can bleed." He closed his eyes. Each beat echoed like a pulse, pulling him back to the night of the leak. The argument, the cold stares, the silence that followed. He didn't know who had betrayed him. Maybe it didn't matter anymore. What hurt wasn't the act. It was that he couldn't trust anyone enough to find out. His phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen. A single new message from an unknown contact. "They think you're gone. Don't prove them wrong." For a moment, he felt a flicker of anger. Then realization. Someone knew where he was and was watching that in Seoul. Jungkook showed the others the text he'd received. RM's face darkened. This isn't random. Someone's feeding both sides. Both sides of what? Taeyong asked. Uneasy. "The truth," Namjoon said. "And a lie." Outside, lightning split the sky. Inside, the group stood together, but it no longer felt like unity. It felt like a fragile performance, 6 hearts pretending to beat in the same rhythm, when one was already lost to silence. And somewhere in that silence, Suga's unfinished song kept playing, over and over again, like a heartbeat that refused to fade. Suga's secret messages begin to surface, pulling BTS into a deeper web of mistrust and fear. The truth is closer, but far more dangerous than they imagined. The studio lights flickered once, twice, and then went dark. Jungkook froze, his hand still on the keyboard. For a split second, all he heard was the soft hum of electricity and the pounding of his own pulse. Power cut? Jimin asked from behind, voice uncertain. Before Jungkook could answer, the monitors flickered back to life. Except this time, the screen wasn't blank. A single folder appeared on the desktop, its title pulsing in red, for those still listening. Namjoon stepped closer. That wasn't here before. Jungkook hesitated. His throat felt dry. With a single click, the folder opened to reveal 7 audio files, each marked with a member's initial. He scrolled down, and there it was, _confession.wave. Don't, Namjoon said sharply, but Jungkook had already hit play. Static filled the room first, then Suga's voice. Hoarse, slow, wounded. If they're listening, I want them to remember what truth sounds like. You said we'd be brothers, Namjoon. But tell me, since when did brothers sign silence agreements? The words hit like a slap. RM's face went pale. He reached for the mouse, but Jungkook pulled away. What does he mean by that? RM's voice faltered. There was a meeting with HYBE. After the leak, they wanted control over the narrative. They made me sign something to keep things quiet until what? Taeyong's tone was sharp, accusatory. Until he disappeared, the silence that followed was worse than shouting. Each of them stared at RM, realization dawning like a slow, cruel sunrise that J-Hope was the first to move. He stormed out, the door slamming so hard it made the walls shake. Jean followed quietly, his usual calm replaced by something unreadable. Namjoon stayed where he was, eyes fixed on the monitor, on the ghostly waveform of Suga's voice. I was trying to protect him, he said softly, but the words felt hollow even to himself. Later that night, Jungkook sat on his bed, headphones on, replaying the recording. But something new caught his attention this time, barely audible, buried under the static. A whisper, a set of coordinates. He scrambled for a pen, writing them down quickly. Busan. He stared at the paper, heart racing. He's leaving his clues, he murmured. Down the hall, Jimin overheard. You think it's really him? I know it's him, Jungkook replied. And I'm going to find him. The next morning, before anyone else woke up, Jungkook slipped out again, this time with a camera bag slung over his shoulder. The coordinates led him to an abandoned studio near Busan's old harbor. The sea stretched gray and endless beyond broken windows, waves crashing against rusted docks. Inside, dust floated in beams of light. And there, on the desk, was a small USB drive with a handwritten label. Not all brothers keep secrets. His breath caught. He pocketed the drive and turned toward the door, but froze. Someone was watching him. A figure stood in the doorway, face obscured by a hood. For a moment, Jungkook's pulse stopped. Suga, he whispered, but the man said nothing. He simply turned and walked away, leaving behind only the echo of wet footsteps. When Jungkook returned to Seoul that night, HYB security was already waiting for him in the dorm. You've been warned, one of them said, expression unreadable. Stay out of things you don't understand. The other members looked on in shock as Jungkook was escorted out of the room. Namjoon's chest tightened. Something had gone terribly wrong, something bigger than their internal rift. Once the guards left, Jean knelt beside the bag Jungkook had dropped. The USB drive had fallen out, lying beneath the table like a piece of forbidden truth. He picked it up slowly, turning it over in his hand. Not all brothers keep secrets, he read aloud. Then, after a pause, but maybe we should have. That night, the dorm was silent again, except for the faint sound of Jungkook's door creaking open in the dark. And from somewhere deep in Busan, far from the lights of Seoul, Suga stared out toward the sea, headphones on, recording something only the waves could hear. Trust, he whispered into the mic, isn't lost all at once. It fades note by note. The red light on the recorder blinked, then went out. The silence between beats, a hidden USB, a forbidden song, and the return of old wounds. BTS faces their most dangerous truth, yet as Suga's voice resurfaces from the shadows, the USB drive sat like a loaded weapon on the center table of the dorm's living room. No one dared touch it. The air was thick with unspoken tension, and the faint hum of the refrigerator in the corner was the only sound that broke the silence. Gene stared at it for what felt like hours. "He left this for us," he finally said. His tone carried the weight of something more than curiosity, guilt. "But maybe we're not supposed to hear what's inside." Namjoon rubbed his temples, eyes bloodshot from another sleepless night. "We've been lied to, watched, and manipulated. The only thing left is to listen." Taeyong hesitated, fingers hovering over his laptop. The blue light reflected off his face, sharp against the dark room. "Once I open this, there's no going back." Jimin's voice trembled slightly. "Then maybe it's time we stop running." The click of a USB sliding in felt deafening. A single folder appeared, titled The Final Session. Inside, one file, 7 without underscore me to MP3. The waveform pulsed on screen, alive and waiting. Taeyong pressed play. The song began with a low piano chord, the kind only Suga could have written, melancholy but deliberate. Then came his voice, fragile, haunting. "If I disappear, would you still sing? If I break, will the harmony cling?" 7 became 6, but the echo remains, and fame tastes bitter when swallowed with pain. The words hit them like a storm. Jungkook, who had quietly returned to the dorm after his confrontation with HYBE security, felt his eyes burn. He could hear Suga's exhaustion in every syllable, like someone confessing to ghosts. Then, midway through the song, a distorted voice broke through the melody. "Not Suga's. Delete this file, or they'll come for all of you." The room froze. Namjoon lunged forward, pausing the playback. "That's not part of the track." "Then who the hell?" J-Hope's words caught in his throat. Taeyong ejected the drive immediately, but the screen glitched. Files began duplicating themselves, flooding the desktop. Hundreds of copies, each one named differently, but all variations of one message: "I'm not gone." The computer shut down on its own. The lights flickered. Outside, thunder rolled like an omen. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Gene whispered, "He's reaching out, but someone else is intercepting him." That night, Namjoon called an emergency meeting with the company's director. The man's expression was calm, too calm. "We told you to stay out of it," he said. "Yoongi is under observation. He requested privacy." "Privacy?" Namjoon shot back. "He's being hunted. Someone is tampering with his files, threatening us." The director's jaw tightened. "Not everything you think you know is true." When the meeting ended, Namjoon didn't speak a word on the way back. His phone buzzed in his pocket. No caller ID. Just a text. "He's closer than you think." In Busan, rain drummed against the studio roof where Suga sat in near darkness. He'd been working for days, recording fragments of thoughts rather than songs. The notebook beside him was filled with chaotic lines, some crossed out, some repeated over and over. "They twisted my voice. Truth needs noise." He rubbed his eyes, exhaustion deepening into something dangerous. The door creaked open. A faint figure entered, a woman in a gray coat carrying a sealed envelope. Her face was shadowed, but her tone was gentle. "You can't stay hidden forever, Yoongi." He didn't look up. "I'm not hiding. I'm exposing." "By burning everything?" He turned then, his eyes hollow but burning. "Sometimes you have to set the truth on fire to see who survives the smoke." The woman placed the envelope on the table and left without another word. Inside were photos, grainy still from CCTV cameras, showing Jungkook entering the Busan studio. Someone had been watching both of them. Suga exhaled, running a hand through his hair. He whispered to himself, almost like a prayer, "It's not betrayal if it saves them." Meanwhile in Seoul, Jungkook couldn't sleep. He kept replaying Suga's lyrics in his head. 7 became 6, but the echo remains. The line felt less like poetry and more like prophecy. In the dim light of dawn, he went to Namjoon's room. Hyung, what if he's not angry at us? Namjoon looked up slowly. Then what is he? Warning us. The words lingered in the air long after the sun rose, and somewhere far away, in a studio by the sea, Suga pressed record one more time, his voice a whisper over static. If you're hearing this, it's already begun. The song that shouldn't exist when a forbidden track leaks worldwide. BTS faces chaos and fear. Suga's haunting message reemerges, and it carries a truth none of them are ready to face. The world woke up in chaos. At T6:17 a.m., an unreleased BTS song appeared on every major streaming platform, uploaded from an anonymous account. The title, Seven Without Me. Jungkook stared at his phone in disbelief as the notifications exploded across social media. The same haunting melody they had heard in secret the night before now flooded the internet. Raw, unfiltered, and devastatingly beautiful. But this version was different. It included new verses, ones that none of them had heard before. You silence the pain to protect your name, but silence becomes the loudest blame. Don't look for me in your reflection. I've already burned that connection. Namjoon's hands trembled. This isn't the same file. It's his voice, Jimin whispered, but it's not the same Suga. Within an hour, hashtags like hashtag Suga return, hashtag BTS betrayal, and hashtag the hidden track trended worldwide. Fans were divided, some heartbroken, others furious. Rumors exploded. Had Suga turned against BTS? Was this his revenge? At HYBE headquarters, chaos reigned. Executives barked orders. PR teams scrambled to shut down links. But the song had already spread beyond control. Every takedown only fueled the fire. In a locked conference room, the 6 remaining members sat in silence. Screens around them played news broadcasts, each voice overlapping with the next. Leak traced to an offshore server, connections to a former producer, unconfirmed reports that Min Yoongi has broken contract. J-Hope slammed his fist against the table. They're turning him into an enemy. Namjoon closed his eyes. And we're letting them. Then Jungkook spoke, his voice low but fierce. No, we find him first. He pulled out the coordinates he'd written weeks ago, still folded and worn. He's in Busan. That song. He uploaded it from there. The others exchanged uneasy glances. Jean finally said, if we go after him, the company will bury us. Then let them try. Jungkook replied, I'd rather be buried with him than live with this lie. Hours later, under the cover of night, they drove south. No managers, no press, just 6 men and the ghost of one more. The highway stretched ahead, endless and wet with rain. Every so often, the sound of thunder drowned their silence. When they reached the outskirts of Busan, the GPS led them to a small fishing district. Empty warehouses, salt in the air, the faint crash of waves against the shore. The studio door creaked as Jungkook pushed it open. The smell hit them first, coffee, sea air, and the faint trace of smoke. Equipment was scattered across the room. Half-burnt lyric sheets, open cables, a microphone still warm as if it had just been used. And there on the desk was a note. I told you not to come. Taeyong's voice broke the silence. Where is he? Before anyone could answer, a low hum filled the room. The speakers flickered to life, playing an automated voice. Message scheduled for release. Midnight KST. Namjoon's eyes widened. He's planning another drop. Jungkook looked around frantically, noticing a hard drive connected to the console. The file name pulsed. Confession_final.wave. But before he could reach it, a sound echoed from the hallway. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. The door opened. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. Then Suga stepped inside, drenched from the rain, his gaze unreadable. His black hoodie clung to his shoulders, his eyes dark but steady. Yoongi, Jimin whispered, taking a step forward. Suga's expression didn't change. You shouldn't have come. Namjoon stood, voice breaking between anger and relief. You vanished. You shut us out. What the hell is happening? Suga's lips curved into something between a smirk and a sigh. You still don't get it, do you? They were never after me. They were after us. Before anyone could respond, the computer screen behind him blinked to life again, this time displaying HYBE's internal network access. Someone had been remotely watching the studio. The red recording light glowed. They're listening right now, Suga said quietly. Every word we say. The room filled with dread. He reached for the hard drive and unplugged it. This, he said, holding it tightly, is the truth they don't want out. Not about me. About them. Jungkook stepped closer. Then let us help you. Suga hesitated. Rain pounded against the windows, lightning splitting the sky. He looked at each of them, their faces raw with loyalty and fear. For the first time in months, his voice softened. You'll regret it, he whispered. Namjoon shook his head. Not if it means bringing you home. The thunder outside roared again, but beneath it, another sound rose, a car engine, approaching fast. Headlights cut through the rain, stopping right outside the studio. Suga's face turned pale. They found us, and before anyone could move, the power went out, plunging them all into darkness. Only the red light of the recorder remained, blinking like a heartbeat that refused to die. The price of the truth as the final upload begins. BTS faces the full force of betrayal. When loyalty and survival collide, someone must pay the price for the truth. The door splintered open with a violent crash. Rain and chaos flooded into the warehouse as armed men stormed inside. The air filled with the scent of wet metal and static. Get down, Namjoon shouted, pulling Jungkook behind a stack of crates. Jin lunged toward the laptop, shielding it with his body. The upload bar flickered. 42%, 43%, 44%. A heartbeat racing toward salvation. Suga gritted his teeth, clutching the hard drive in one hand while hammering commands into the keyboard with the other. His fingers trembled, his breath ragged. Almost there, just hold them off. J-Hope and Taeyong barricaded the side door with broken furniture. Outside, the storm howled like something alive. Every crash of thunder sounded closer, sharper, as if the sky itself was cracking under pressure. One of the masked men charged forward. Jungkook swung a metal rod with a desperate cry, the sound echoing like a gunshot. The intruder stumbled back, and for a moment, the chaos froze. Enough! A deep voice bellowed from the entrance. All heads turned. A man stepped inside, face shadowed beneath the brim of a cap. He wasn't armed. He didn't need to be. The air itself seemed to obey him. Yoongi, he said evenly, ignoring the others. You're making a mistake. Suga froze. His jaw tightened. You. The man stepped forward, removing his cap. His face was familiar. Too familiar. It was Bang, their former creative director, the one who had shaped their earliest music, their image, their rise. I told you once, Bang said calmly. Truth isn't what saves people. It's what ruins them. Namjoon's voice shook. You're behind this? I built all of this, Bang replied. The music, the empire, the dream. And now you're burning it because you think you can play heroes. Suga took a step forward. His voice was low, dangerous. You sold our voices. You erased our choices. You turned us into products. Bang's expression hardened. You were never more than that. But you were the best. A flicker of pain flashed across Suga's face, but it only fueled his resolve. Then you should have known I'd never stay silent. Bang sighed, pulling a small device from his pocket, a jammer. You can't upload what doesn't exist. He pressed the button. The laptop screen blinked. The upload froze at 89%. No. Jungkook lunged forward, but it was too late. The screen went black. Suga stared at the dead laptop, chest rising and falling with fury. Then something inside him shifted, a cold calm replacing rage. He turned toward Bang. You can stop the upload, he said quietly. But you can't stop the echo. Bang's eyes narrowed. What did you do? Suga reached into his jacket and pulled out a small flash stick, the same backup he'd shown them before. You thought I'd trust one upload? Jimin's breath caught. He cloned it. Suga smiled faintly, a broken, weary smile. Redundancy saves art and rebellion. Before Bang could react, Suga tossed the flash drive toward Jungkook. Take it. Finish it. Yoongi, Jungkook started, but Suga cut him off. Go! In the next instant, one of the guards lunged. The room exploded into movement. Jungkook ducked and ran for the back exit, clutching the drive. J-Hope and Jean followed, covering his escape. Namjoon turned back to Suga, voice breaking. Come with us. Suga shook his head. If I go, they'll follow. Someone has to keep them here. The look they shared in that moment said everything. Years of brotherhood, laughter, pain, loyalty. 1,000 unspoken goodbyes. Then the explosion came. The old generator at the corner of the warehouse, struck by lightning, erupted in a burst of fire and light. The shock wave threw everyone to the ground. Flames licked across the walls, smoke filling the air. Through the haze, Namjoon saw Suga still standing, silhouetted against the inferno, his face hidden by shadows and sparks. Go! He shouted again, voice raw, breaking. Jungkook hesitated at the door, tears streaming down his face. Hyung! But Suga only smiled, his voice a whisper swallowed by fire. Keep singing. That's how we survive. The others dragged Jungkook outside as the warehouse burned behind them, flames clawing at the night sky. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. They didn't look back. None of them could. Hours later, drenched and trembling, they reached a motel at the edge of the city. Jungkook placed the flash drive on the table, his hands still shaking. Namjoon stared at it in silence, then at the rain-streaked window. If he's gone, he stopped himself. No, we finished this. Jimin swallowed hard. For him, J-Hope opened his laptop, inserting the drive. The file appeared instantly, untouched, complete. Namjoon took a deep breath, his reflection flickering on the screen. Once this goes live, there's no turning back. Taeyong's voice was steady this time. Then let the world hear him. And as the upload bar began to climb again, 10%, 20%, 30%, a single tear rolled down Jungkook's cheek. Somewhere, far behind them, in the glow of a dying fire by the sea, a faint sound still echoed through the night, like the fading hum of a piano chord refusing to end at a song that shouldn't exist, but somehow still did. Harmony reclaimed, the truth surfaces, wounds heal, and BTS confronts betrayal, loyalty, and music's power to unite. Even after the darkest storm, at dawn broke over Seoul, soft and indifferent, casting pale light across the quiet streets. The world was waking, unaware that the last chapter of BTS's most harrowing struggle was about to unfold. Inside a small, makeshift studio, the 6 remaining members sat in a circle. The flash drive glowed faintly on the table, its contents now uploaded, streamed worldwide. Every screen, every speaker, every device carried Suga's truth. His music, his confessions, the evidence of manipulation, and the plea for honesty. Namjoon exhaled slowly. It's done. Jimin nodded, eyes heavy but clear. The world heard him. No one can lie about this anymore. Jungkook, still clutching his knees, finally whispered, Do you think he's okay? The room fell silent. None of them answered immediately. Each one felt the weight of absence. The hollow space left by Suga's disappearance. The memories of arguments, unspoken fears, and the bond they had almost lost. Then the door creaked. Light spilled through the opening, soft and golden. A familiar silhouette appeared. Suga, soaked from the rain but unbroken. His hair was damp, and his hoodie clung to him, but his eyes carried calm determination. Young Jin's voice trembled. Suga smiled faintly, a weary, almost mischievous curl. Didn't think I'd let you finish the song without me. They rose, one by one, closing the distance between them. Namjoon reached out first, and Suga met him halfway, clasping hands in a grip that said more than words could. Jimin and Jungkook were next, their embrace hesitant but full of relief. For the first time in weeks, laughter surfaced. Not the stage laughter for cameras, not the rehearsed smiles, but pure, messy, human relief. Suga gestured toward the computer. The upload, it's not perfect. Some people will misunderstand. But at least they know now that we're human, that we make mistakes, that we protect each other. Taeyong leaned against the wall, a small smile tugging at his lips. And some people might even understand. Suga shook his head slightly, smirking. Understanding isn't the goal. Surviving together, that's the goal. Hours passed as they reviewed the streams, messages, and reactions. Fans were supportive, outraged, loving, protective, but most importantly, they were listening. The world finally saw BTS not as untouchable icons, but as seven people bound by music, trust, and brotherhood. Later, as evening descended, the seven gathered on the rooftop of their dorm building. The city sprawled beneath them, glittering with light and life. Suga pulled a small notebook from his pocket. He opened it to a blank page and wrote slowly. Music is more than sound. It is truth, and truth is never alone. He closed the notebook and looked at the group. We've been through a storm, but storms pass. And after the storm, we make new music. Together. Jungkook nudged him playfully. So, no more disappearing acts? Suga chuckled softly. Not unless it's dramatic enough for a music video. The wind lifted around them, carrying the distant hum of the city and the faint echo of unfinished melodies. For the first time, they felt the weight of the cracks beneath their friendship soften, healed not by words alone, but by understanding, trust, and the unbreakable bond of shared history. They sat together in silence for a moment, letting the night stretch, listening to the soft rhythm of the city and to the unspoken harmony between them. Somewhere in the distance, a piano chord echoed faintly, a reminder that even after betrayal, fear, and darkness, music, friendship, and truth could still survive. Suga leaned back, closing his eyes, letting the city lights wash over him. "We're back," he whispered. And for the first time in what felt like forever, they truly were. The storm had passed. The cracks remained visible, yes, but they no longer threatened to break them apart. They were stronger, wiser, and more united than ever. The echoes of the past would always linger, but the music, their music, would endure.